Hello everybody, welcome back to Talks Tamiya. I'm Craig. Thank you very much for joining me for episode number 2. And what a time to start doing a podcast about Tamiya, because what we've just had today is the Nuremberg Toy Fair for 2025, and I'm pleased to say there is loads of lovely, juicy RC Tamiya models for us to get stuck into and see what we've got in store for the next 6 months coming out of our friends at Tamiya. Now, all the releases that I'm going to talk to you about are scheduled in for the first half of the year, but as with always these things, they might not arrive on time, could get delayed. So the dates I've got at the minute, some of them are speculative, some of them are confirmed, and they've been confirmed with various different model shops in the UK today. And I've also got some prices. Now, those prices, I do have the recommended retail price in the UK, but I also have some of the cheapest prices that I found. I'm not going to tell you what website because I'm not affiliated with anybody, but these are the prices that I found, a little bit of scouring around on the internet today. So let's get stuck into it, shall we? So out of the gate, we've got confirmation of the Honda City Turbo on the WR02 chassis. Now, I know a lot of you are looking forward to this one. I am mildly interested by it. It's not one that I've really got a massive fascination for, but it's coming out on the 27th of June, and the recommended retail price in the UK is £185, and I was worried that that one was going to be through the roof. I thought Tamiya would be coming out the gate with £230 on that one, and they've really surprised me. I've seen it available in UK model shops at £159, and I think that's really good value. If you are in the market for that model, don't hang about. I don't know how long these things are going to be about for. My expectation on Tamiya is that they'll put this out, it'll be out there on the shelves for 6 months or so, and then this one will be gone. They will save this to bring it back another time because it's very popular. And then we also had confirmation of the Bigwig. So the Bigwig is coming on the 30th of May, and the recommended retail price on that was £250. It is available somewhere in the region of £220 that I've seen in the market at the moment. Now, I personally think that's an awful lot of money for the Bigwig. It's not one that's been on my list to get. If it had been maybe £199, £20 off, might be a bit more interested in it. But for £219, there's other models that I'd rather put that money towards personally. The Bigwig will be massively popular though. People are going to lap this thing up. People loved it back in the day. We have not seen it for a number of years now. They've been trading at some crazy prices. I think people are going to be absolutely stoked for this one. But again, I would say if you want it and it's been on your list for a while, don't miss out on this opportunity. Who knows when it'll be back? So go and get it. So here we go. The new things that we didn't know about going into this toy fair. Tamiya have decided to bring back a TRF, a new TRF chassis. TRF 104 chassis, which is a super nice Formula 1 chassis. Now, we've seen these from Tamiya before. We had the F104, which came with the body set, looked really nice. But for me, you need to be a fan of those cars. You need to have either a carpet track or somewhere that you can run these things on a really smooth asphalt surface. So it's not for me, but these things are massively popular. People love them. This one is absolutely hopped up. Updated suspension, tunable camber and adjustable links. It's ball raced, carbon drive shaft, carbon plate. There's loads of blue Tamiya alloy parts all over it. It looks really nice. If you're an F1 fan and you like F1 modelling, this is definitely for you. But it does leave me wondering a little bit, where are all Tamiya's licensed F1 cars? Back in the day, there was always something, right? There was always a licensed F1 car somewhere, and we don't see them today. And Tamiya did have an unlicensed F1 car. I can't remember what the name of it was off the top of my head at the minute. But why not put out one that is... Why not go to Ferrari or go to Red Bull and have a conversation with them and get a licensed F1? I mean, we're about to start season again. It would just be... It seems like a bit of a miss to me from Tamiya, and it's something that seems missing in their authentic modelling of real-world cars. So it'd be really nice to see them bring back a vintage Formula 1. It'd be great to see them bring back some of the modern ones. I think the F1 cars are coming up for a refresh in 2026, so maybe they're going to hold off. Maybe we'll see some of those at that time. Who knows? I'm not a massive F1 fan, but I do think there's an opportunity there for Tamiya to do something different. What are your thoughts? Do you like F1? Do you like F1 modelling? Is this one that really gets you going? Do you like the TRF chassis? Let me know. My attention then turned to the models that are on the TT2 chassis, and there's three of them shown. There's an Audi 90 Quattro Racing, which looks absolutely beautiful. The wheels on that one look amazing, and the body looks great. And I'm sure for those people that enjoy modelling on the 1/10 RC scale, they're going to lap that body shell up because it just looks wonderful. There was a Porsche 911 GT3R, and there was an R8 LMS 2008. Sorry. The Quattro is out on the 28th of Feb. The R8 is out on the 25th of April, and the Porsche 911 is TBA, not confirmed the date of that yet. They're all retailing somewhere in the region of £135 with an RRP of 150 in the UK. So it looks to me like Tamiya are continuing to explore and milk the TT2, which is great. But I am a bit disappointed that there wasn't a new chassis there for the four-wheel drive 1/10 road cars or rally cars. As much as I love the TT2 because it's reasonably priced and it allows Tamiya to put out reasonably priced models, I would like to see that chassis evolved at some point. But hey, for now, we can continue to enjoy these wonderful body sets on very reasonable priced chassis to pick up. So that's not too bad. Just realised that I forgot to tell you what the price point was on that TRF 104 chassis, and the reason is because my cat tried to gate crash my podcast. If he hears me talking to a computer, whether I'm on a Teams call or I'm talking on the phone to somebody, he just has to turn up. So he thinks that I'm doing something, talking to somebody, so he's got his face in the camera, he's strutting about like he owns the place. I've now got rid of him, thankfully. So the TRF 104 chassis, that is RRP of £365, which you'd expect from one of Tamiya's sort of flagship chassis with the TRF name on it. And £329 is what I've seen it in the store for. So I think that's pretty good. If you're into F1, that seems to me like a reasonable price point. Okay, the first of my mega excited hot picks. So I did say in the last podcast that I wondered whether Tamiya would do some stuff on the MB1 or the BT1 chassis, and it turns out they did it on both, which is great. So the MB1 start off with the Volkswagen Golf Mark II GTI 16 valve. That is a really, really nice looking model. So the body shell looks great, lots of detail. The wheels on that one look absolutely fantastic. They've sort of recreated those steel hubcaps or the steel wheels that were on that model. My mum had a Mark II Golf growing up as a kid. She didn't have a GTI. It was I want to say it was like a 1 litre or something like that. It wasn't very fast, but I remember driving that car. It was one of the first cars I got to drive, and the doors were nothing. It was just a skin of metal on the door, and you'd wind the door handles. And I remember them having little leather straps that you used to pull the doors shut. It was a really old car. I remember bombing around in that. It was a great car. But it's really nice to see that come back in model form. And I, for one, got a massive hit of nostalgia when I saw that model. And I also did for one of the other ones. I'll come on to that in a minute. But I like that. I think I would probably pick it up just as a model to do, really, more than an RC to run. Or I might just get the body shell and paint the body shell up at some point. But I thought that was a really cool one. I really like the detail on it. And again, I think those wheels on that look absolutely fantastic. And had they not announced the other MB1, I might have been tempted by that Volkswagen Golf. But unfortunately for me, or fortunately for me, they had something else on offer. And that something else was the Mini Cooper Racing. That thing is going to sell like absolute hotcakes. I think they'll sell even more of it if they release the body set, which when I was looking through all the various different sites that I could find today, I saw no mention of a body shell for that. And if Tamiya don't do a body shell, they will have missed a trick there, in my opinion. And even more so if it's not drilled anyway, so people can use it on whatever chassis that they want to. But wow, an MB1, I know everyone's got mixed feelings about that kit. I have one. I've not built it yet. I am in no way authorised to comment on whether or not it's full of slop or not. I will find out. But I do think it's great that Tamiya is supporting these new chassis. And, more importantly, for those of us who like collecting lots of models, the MB1 seems to be reasonably priced. So the Golf is in for 155 RRP with 139 at store. And the Mini Cooper, which surprised me, has come in at 145 RRP. And I have picked one up for £125, which I think is an absolute bargain. So what am I going to do with my Mini Cooper Racing? Well, I am going to set it up. I'm assuming it'll be a front-wheel drive. Set it up as front-wheel drive, and I am going to stick some rally blocks on it. And I am going to jump the ride height up a little bit with some shocks. And I'm going to take it rallying. And I know that's not what it's meant to be done, but I like rallying my cars. I like finding cars that probably shouldn't be rallied and sticking some rally blocks on them and just having a go and seeing how they get on. I tend to rally on... I've got a tarmac drive out the front that gets all sort of covered in moss, and it creates quite a nice little slick surface for rally cars to be bombing about on. And then I do take it up and we race it up on the dirt on the Orchard Raceway. If the grass gets down nice and low during the summer on the lawn, I can poodle around the lawn with it as well and do little rally stages around the lawn. They're good fun, but you need to have a little bit of extra ride height. So some of the chassis sit too low and you need to have the ability to jack them up. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to go with the MB1, we'll find out, but I'm intrigued enough to give it a go and see what happens. I would have loved if they'd have done that Monte Carlo body set first and put that on it, but I think that would have been not as good as Salah, I think. I think people, they think Mini, they think Cooper. My original Mini that I had a Mini as a kid, my first car was a Mini. It was a 1 litre Mini Advantage, which was a tennis-themed one. It had like tennis nets down the side and tennis balls. But I was not impressed that I didn't have a Cooper, so I got the vinyl bonnet stripes and put those on, and I spent hours tinkering with that car, doing all sorts of stuff, changing the air filters, and it was a simpler time back then. But unfortunately, that car did not make it much longer than a couple of years as a learner learning to drive. And being a boy, I didn't take great care of it, unfortunately. But now I can have an RC car that I can take better care of and trash on the Orchard Raceway. Isn't that great? So on that stand where they had the Mini Cooper, they also had a little note next to it saying that there are more BMW and Mini products planned, to stay tuned. And then beneath it, they had a couple of other BMW models from yesteryear that were, I think, probably on the TA01 and TA02 chassis. So what I want to know is, do you guys have any thoughts about what sort of BMW stroke Mini products you'd like to see come? And I was thinking, you've got obviously the Mini Monte Carlo Rally. That would be cool, right? A modern Mini, not for me. I know they were there before. People did them before. They probably sell quite well because people have got a Mini. It's nice to have a little version of it you can drive around. That's pretty cool. The BMW 318i, I think that would be pretty popular. They had the E30 on the stand as well. Those models people love. They remember them. But I did think to myself, wouldn't it be great if Tamiya put one of those BMW models, maybe the 318i, put that onto the TAO chassis? Yeah, give us that chassis back again with a vintage body shell, and let us have another round of the TA chassis, because they're very popular. And having driven the DF chassis now, I understand why people like them, because they just seem to be very balanced and very fun to drive. Who knows? Yeah, maybe I'm just wishful thinking here, but it would be nice if Tamiya were to happen to fall across this podcast and go, what a great idea, Craig. We'll release that on the TA02 chassis and put some more parts out into the market. Please, thank you, Tamiya. Right, getting into the business end now. We're nearly at the end of all of the new releases. The next one that caught my eye, and really caught my eye because I'm in the market for one of these chassis, is the Peugeot 306 Maxi on the BT01. And that one came up with a little rally badge on it at the front and a little spoiler on the back, and yeah, that looks good to me. I was looking at different body shells that I could put on a BT01, in fact, yesterday. And I found a BT01 online somewhere that was reasonably priced. And I thought to myself, hey, maybe get it, do some work on it, hop it up a little bit, turn it into a rally car. Who knows if it can rally, but let's find out. But I couldn't find a body shell that I liked. And the one that I kept going back to was the Peugeot 306. But Unfortunately, it was out of stock, so the idea just fell away, and maybe for another day. Now, Tamiya have made that dream come true, because I could buy now a BT01 with a Peugeot 306 rally body on it, and it will look great, and I'll be able to rally it. But it would have been really nice if they'd have used the rally decals that go onto that. But I'm sure we could pick them up if I wanted to. But actually, I didn't mind it in the blue, or if I'm honest. And I think the body shell looks pretty cool. So that is one that's definitely on my list. And it was really nice to see Tamiya go back and revive some of those retro 90s body shells. Do you think we'll see some more of those? I, for one, would love to see some more of the 90s body shells that came out during that period, because I love those cars. They remind me of my childhood. I think they'll be a big nostalgic hit for people and would be very popular. So here we go. We're 3 for 3 with this next one. The DT04 was announced. Now, I did say, would we see a DT04? Would we see a TT03? It was a 50-50 shot, and we got one of them. So I'm really pleased that Tamiya are continuing to invest in entry-level buggies. And I say that loosely because this one's not quite as entry-level as I would have hoped. So it's called the Fighter Next Gen, and it is based on a new DT04 platform. It does look very close to the DT03 at the rear end. It looks like it's the same gearbox, but the front looks completely redesigned. It doesn't appear to have a polycarbonate shell. It looks like it's got plastic moulded parts that bolt onto the chassis to create the shape of the buggy. It's got a different front bulkhead arrangement. Not quite sure I understand. The shocks look like they've moved forward from, they were originally on the DT03 attached to the rear of the mount, and now they're on the front of the mount. The front wheels look very similar to the ones that are on the DT02 and DT03. The rear ones look the same. It does come with CVAs, which is nice. I know that was kind of like an added extra on the DT03, but this one does come with CVAs. It looks like you can change the wheelbase on it, so you can extend it and have a long wheelbase, or you can have a short wheelbase, which I think is really interesting, especially if it's all modular. So you just decide, do I want this to be a long wheelbase or a short wheelbase? And you can adjust it for the track. I think that's really cool. It's got a nice comical Tamiya driver figure, which is kind of fun. I like that. And it looks like the whole body shell, or the body parts, lift up to give you access to the centre where you put the battery and stuff before knocking it all back down again. Little bit like the BBX. And actually, this has a big BBX feel to me. It's like the junior brother of the BBX, which I think is pretty cool. It did catch my eye. It looks to me like they're kind of pitching it against the Kyosho Sandmaster. You know, it's that kind of entry-level RC that's a bit different and hopefully catches the eye of a younger crowd. It's cool. I like it. I might pick one up for the channel. I think it would be pretty fun to build and get it running out on the Orchard Raceway. But as an entry-level RC, they've put this in with an RRP of £175. And actually, when I saw that come up on the model shops today, it started out at £175. And I couldn't believe it. That's where they're pitching the starting price for buggy RC for Tamiya at £175. The Hornet Evo is only £189. You could, for a couple more quid, you can have an iconic Hornet, you know, with a bit of a nicer gearbox that's a bit more robust, that can take a bit more speed. Turns out that 175 turned into 149 at store, which actually is, I think, a bit more reasonably priced. I still think it's a lot more than the DT02 and DT03 were selling for. I can't remember what they hit the market at when they first came out, probably 120 to 130 pounds. So inflation, it is a little bit extra, but is it enough? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it gets on and how it sells. It has got hexes for the fronts, which I know a lot of people have been asking for on this model, so that's pretty cool. And hopefully those hop-up parts become available so we can just buy those really easily and stick those on all of our two-wheel drive buggies if we wanted to. So I know that's really cool to be able to change those front wheels to hexes. So that's good. I like it. I am going to probably get one. There's no date for that one yet. It's to be announced. I would imagine we'll see that probably into the summer. Yeah, so that's it. I didn't tell you the price on the Peugeot. That's on for £159 at retail, 185 RRP, and that's supposed to be coming out on the 28th of March. So, what do you think? Was it a good Nuremberg, or was it a bad one? I think they've done all right, actually. I was weighing on what I was going to say about this. I wanted... Well, let's go through what they've done. They've given us a new TRF chassis. They've given us new bodies on the TT2, which I think it was a given. Everyone knows that Tamiya do new bodies on TT2s. They've also given us the Mini on the MB1 plus a Mark II Golf. They've given us a new body shell on the BTO1. They've given us a DTO4. They've also re-released the Bigwig and the Honda City Turbo. And they've recently released the Super Astute, and they've done the Hornet Evo. It seems to me, actually, that Tamiya's doing all right. And that actually isn't that bad a start for 2025 for Tamiya. I think there will be some people out there that are disappointed. I did mention Dynastorm in my last podcast. I mentioned 959 in my last podcast. And look, we've been wanting these things for ages. We're always going to be disappointed when they don't turn up. But Tamiya has only announced models for the first half of the year. We've still got the second half of 2025. And 2026 is a big celebration year for Tamiya. It's 50 years of RC. They've got to save some stuff for next year. Otherwise, we're all going to be sat there looking at next year's releases going, why didn't Tamiya make more of a splash of 50 years and blah, 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 blah. So I think it's good. I'm really pleased. And I really am looking forward to seeing what Tamiya has planned for the latter part of the year. And there's enough nice things in the first half to get us at least buying a Tamiya kit. And that's the important thing. Well, so that was a lot of excitement coming out of the Toy Fair. And unfortunately, in the lead up to the Toy Fair, Tamiya went out and announced there were some of their models that they were discontinuing and they were no longer going to be stocked. And I think they do this in the lead up to the Toy Fair because they've got to clear some space in the wholesalers and they've got to make some places in the stores. They've got to make room for these new models that are coming. So they announced that there was a couple of TT2s that are disappearing. The Tom's GR Supra's gone. They've got rid of the Nissan GTR Drift on the TT2 Drift chassis. Surprised about that one, but that's no longer in production. The Supra with the pre-painted body, it was on the BTO1, has gone because we've got a new BTO1. The Quad Track has gone on the GFO1, that's disappeared. The pre-painted squash van's not coming back, so you can still get the squash van, but you can't get it pre-painted, which I think for a lot of people, okay, it doesn't matter. You know, I'd rather have if I had a choice, I'd rather get an unpainted body so I can paint it myself and choose the colours. It's interesting, the TT2 BR is gone, discontinued, no more. Doesn't surprise me, that thing can't have sold particularly well. But I thought it was interesting they didn't announce that the TT2 SRX, was it? Or whatever the road version of that was, that's not been discontinued. It's just a buggy version. I would still like to pick one of those up, and I'm now scouring about to see if there's one out there at a decent price. But yeah, if I'm honest, I've got most of the hop-ups that I would want to put into that to hop up my TT2B if I wanted to. But I did quite like the look of that when it first came out, and then I saw the price point and just fell off my chair a little bit and decided that £290 for a TT2B was just a little too much money when it didn't come with any tyres. And then the one that really didn't upset me, but surprised me, is that they've decided they're no longer going to have the Top Force Evo. They've halted production on that. What's out in the market is out in the market. So if you're on the fence of the Top Force Evo, which is the Orchard Raceway champion from this last year just gone, 2024, you better get out and go and find one now because that is it. You're not going to see them again for a while. And when I say a while, I think we waited a long while to see the Top Force Evo back again. And I think you'll probably find we're going to be waiting an awful long time to see it back again. So if you're on the fence, they're out there in the market for between $320, $330 and $380, depending on what stores you go to. Go out there, pick one up, get it in your collection if you are really liking the Top Force Evo. I was always on the fence about it. I got one at a great price a couple of years ago. Really pleased with the price I paid for it. And oh my gosh, what a buggy. It just blew everything else that I had in the collection out of the water. It is a fantastic drive. It builds lovely. It drives really nicely out the gate. I can see why that chassis was so popular back in the day. And I, for one, hope I never break it and never go through the hardship of trying to get parts. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? So yeah, Tamiya moving on a load of models to make space for all these lovely new ones that they've announced at the Toy Fair. So that's good, isn't it? So, getting towards the end of this podcast, I want to try and keep them to 30 minutes if I can, because trying to talk for longer than 30 minutes when you're doing it on your own is a long time to keep the energy levels up and keep talking to people. But I'm doing my best. I'm really trying, honestly. What I thought I would do is just do a little wrap up, really, of what I'm working on at the moment on the channel. So, as you guys know, I do have a YouTube channel as well as doing the podcast. And on there, I just try and document my RC hobby, really. What am I getting up to? What am I working on? Do some repairs, do some model reworks, restore some old buggies. And then during the summer, I get out on the back garden track, the Orchard Raceway, and I do a time trial section where I put different buggies against each other, and then ultimately we crown a winner every year. And last year, as I mentioned earlier, it was the Top Force Evo. I have been working over the last couple of weeks on a Terra Scorcher. Now, I've got a Thunder Dragon in the fleet, and the Thunder Dragon won the Orchard Raceway in 2023, and I really enjoyed driving it. It's a really nice buggy. For its age, it handles reasonably well. It does tend to roll a little bit into the corners. You have to be very careful, when you apply the throttle. But once you get the hang of how it drives, you can drive it quite quickly. And I really liked it. But I bought the Terra Scorcher before I bought the Thunder Dragon. And if I remember, I got the Thunder Dragon off Andy Robinson, who was selling it because he just didn't need the kit. He used the body on something else and didn't need the kit. So I took the kit off him. And I had that might not even have been the Thunder Dragon, it might have been something else. But I bought the chassis and then I had the body shell that I wanted to do like an X-Wing, and that's what I did with mine. It's got like a little X-Wing pilot inside it and an R2-D2 unit on the back, and I just had a bit of fun with it, really. But it's a great car, and it put me off building the Terra Scorcher because I built that and I had so much fun with it. I didn't want to build the Terra Scorcher. And then I bought some VQS high caps, and I really enjoyed doing the high caps on the Top Force Evo, and I thought, hey, I'm going to build that Terra Scorcher and enjoy building another set of beautiful high caps. So that's what I did. And I've done the body shell, and it's probably, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet too much here, it's probably the best body shell that I've done. The cutting out, I probably could have done a better job with, but the paintwork is just superb. I used PS16 metallic blue, and it looks fantastic. And then the decals went on beautifully because they're reasonably easy to put on as long as you follow the instructions. There's two massive ones that go down the side of the Terra Scorcher, and in the instructions it tells you to put those on first, and I didn't put them on first, so that caused me a bit of a headache. But yeah, the body looks fantastic, so all I've got to do now is mount that up, and that is finished. And once I've done that, I'm going to start working on my Tamiya Falcon Restoration. I say restoration, Paul Coughlin is a viewer on the channel on YouTube. He's also got his own YouTube channel, so go and check him out. And Paul got in touch, and he wanted to see a Falcon going around the Orchard Raceway this year. So he sent me a Falcon chassis with a body shell that needs a bit of love. And he's also sent me a whole load of 3D printed parts to try and keep that chassis running for as long as I can keep it running for. He gave me spares of all the major weak points. And I am going to strip it back. I'm going to put ball bearings throughout. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to put some modern electronics in, and we're going to get it out on the Orchard Raceway. I've got a new set of tyres. I've got some grasshopper wheels for it because it's the same wheels. Keep those yellow ones that come on the Falcon somewhere safe for the future. And I'm going to run it with that original body shell that Paul sent me. And then I've got a repro body shell and some repro decals to do a body shell in the red and the black, like the Hornet body shell was as box art. I am really looking forward to working on this car. I know nothing about it. I never had a Falcon back in the day. It was not one of the ones that interested me. But the more I see it, the more I become interested in its position in the Tamiya line of history, because it was kind of the first entry-level two-wheel drive buggy that moved into something a little bit more competitive. It did away from the hopper design that we saw with the Grasshopper and the Hornet. The Frog used the ORV chassis. This one was using a tub. It had 4 suspensions, oil-filled shocks, front and rear. It had spiked tyres. It looked a little bit different. And from what I can tell, those people that got them, they started to be very competitive straight away when they were racing out on the street or racing in the garden. And then all the fragility of that platform came out. They started breaking. I think it's got a weak bulkhead at the front, and it just showed that actually, while it was very handy, it wasn't strong enough for racing, unfortunately. But I am looking forward to see how it goes on the Ultra Raceway. So I can't wait to get stuck into that. Once I've done that, and I finish the Terra Scorcher, I can then start thinking about, do I do something else? I have got a Blitzer Beetle that I quite fancy doing, and Phil over at Poor Boys RC is doing a body shell for that at the moment, where he's had his wife spray it with proper Volkswagen body shop paint and buff it all up, and it looks absolutely beautiful. And I'd love to do something like that with mine, not in any way near the same level of finish that he's got on it, but I would love to do it in the body shop paint and then buff it up so it looks really good. Whether I can do that or not remains to be seen, but it's certainly something I'd like to give it a bash, but we'll see. I've also got a Kyosho Raider hop-up set that is it's loosely based around the Californian hot trick that they used to do back in the 80s and the 90s on the Raider, where they rip out all the chassis and put in a load of carbon. And I've got this I found this website in the US, and I'll do another podcast, or I'll do a video on this and tell you where it all came from. But they've actually sort of reworked and reimagined that Californian hot trick with something different, and it still replaces the chassis of the Raider with the carbon plates. I know this is Kyosho and it's not Tamiya, and I apologise, but my Raider was the first RC car that I ever had, and I was big into my Kyoshos, or at least I wanted Kyoshos back in the day. As much as I wanted Tamiyas, I also wanted Kyoshos, and this one I love it. So I can't wait to strip it back and have a go at this and see if it makes it a bit more competitive out on my racetrack. So that's it from me. That's what's going on the Orchard Raceway. That's what's going on the OAGRC. That's us for today. 32 minutes. That's not bad. I hope you've all enjoyed this episode. Please like, follow it, subscribe, whatever you have to do. If you've got some ideas of topics that you'd like to hear me cover in future topics, get in touch. You can get in touch with me on my email. You can get in touch with me through the comments on any of the podcasting platforms, or go over to YouTube, give me a subscribe, check me out over there, and leave me some messages on the videos. I always try and get back to people. Loads of people leave me messages, and I try and answer every single one. My social media platforms are not so busy that I don't have the excuse to hide behind that I'm too busy to answer everybody, so I do still answer everybody. I hope one day that I'm so busy that I can't get to everybody. That'd be a really nice thing, but I doubt it'll ever get to that. But if you've got anything to say, drop them in the comments. I'll give people a shout out. For everybody that listened on the first episode, thank you very much. For all of those of you who listened today, thank you again, and I hope to see you all soon on Talks Tamiya. For now, I'm Craig. Thanks for listening. See you all soon. Bye for now.